Test. Okay, perfect. All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. I'm going to introduce Roger Tovar with Whitley Penn, and he's going to go ahead and run through the audit results for the fiscal year ended September 2021.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Council, Mayor. I do have a presentation for the fiscal year 21 audit. I'm just going to go through the presentation. Then, if you have any questions, you can either stop me as I'm going through the presentation, or we can ask questions after the presentation. Is this better? Good. Okay. Good. So this first slide here, we go through the audit process. There's several phases of the audit. We have the first one that deals with the planning of the audit, and so that includes performing a risk assessment on the entity, followed by internal control testing, which we come out and perform some of that early during prior to year end usually. After that, we come back after year end to perform some of the substantive testing, which includes confirmation with third parties and testing our actual account balances. And after we perform all that, we come back and wrap everything up and form our opinion on the financial statements. The three options that are out there for an opinion on the financial statements are the ones that you see on the screen right now. We have a disclaimer, meaning that once we review everything for the financial statements, we really couldn't corroborate anything on the financial statements, and so at that point, we would issue what we call a disclaimer. The second one will be a qualification, and that's just in case we come across something that we're not able to verify or we can't corroborate. At that point, we qualify the opinion for that particular item or items. And then the last option that we see on the right side will be the unmodified opinion, which, as you know, it's not modified, meaning it's a clean opinion. So those are the three options that we have. For the fiscal year 21, we did issue an unmodified opinion on the financial statements, meaning that's the highest level of assurance that you can receive on the financial statements. And so what this means, it provides reasonable assurance that the financial statements are free from material misstatement. People call it a clean report, so that's what we issued. As far as the this year, we were also required to perform what we call a single audit, which is a compliance audit due to the federal funding received under the Coronavirus Relief Fund. And so that added an extra tier of audits that we had to perform on the compliance side, and that also includes testing controls over compliance as well as compliance. We did test, like as I mentioned, the CRF program, and we also issued an unmodified opinion on that. We did not have any internal control issues or any compliance issues as we went and performed that work. This is a high-level overview of your government-wide activity. As far as your ending net position, the top portion of the slide, it just rolls forward your governmental activities, which includes all your governmental funds as well as your capital assets and long-term debt. And then you have your business-type activities on the right side. Just a roll forward of your net position. As you can see, on the governmental side, net position did increase approximately $12.5 million. And then on your business type, it actually decreased approximately $4 million. The bottom portion of that shows you the breakdown of your net position, which the majority of that will be your investment in capital assets. This is just a graph for the overall outstanding debt. As you can see, at the end of 21, you're a little bit over $70 million. There were a couple other issuances after year end, so this graph will look different. If you were to add the fiscal year 22, which obviously we didn't audit that, but there were additional debt issued after fiscal year 21. So this is at the fund level. Similar to what we saw on the net position, this is at the fund level. You can see all your general fund, your debt service fund, capital projects fund, and it's just a roll forward your fund balance. Capital projects fund will be your fund that has the largest, and you can see at the bottom it is restricted for capital for capital projects. And then on the left-hand side, you have your general fund, which overall there was an increase of just under $3 million, with 9.4 of that unassigned. This is the breakdown of your general fund revenues. The two biggest portions that you see here relate to taxes, so property taxes and sales taxes make up over 67% of your total revenues, and then it's followed by franchise fees, and then all your other revenues are not significant compared to your taxes, overall taxes, and so this is pretty consistent with what we've seen year after year. Similar type of graph, except this one's on the expenditure side. 65% of that will be your public safety, followed by your general government, as well as cultural and recreation. Everything else, as similar to what the revenue side was, everything else is pretty insignificant compared to how much the city spends on the public safety and the general government. Some of the required communications that we have to communicate to you as auditors, as independent auditors. This year we had 2 pronouncements that were implemented in fiscal year 21. So that was required by GASB. It's 84 and 98. 84 really didn't have any impact on your financial statements, although it was applicable. Number 98 it was more of a terminology change, so it did have an impact on your financial statements, but not when you think about numbers. It was more on terminology there. For next year, you do have GASB 87, which deals with your leases, so that one will have an impact on your financial statements. And then the year after that, you're gonna have GASB 96, which is similar to leases, but it'll be more on your software, subscription-based IT arrangements, and so that will be in fiscal year 23. So those 2 are coming up, and those will be significant. As far as your financial statements, there are some estimates that are included in your financial statements. The 2 estimates that we consider to be significant will be your allowance for uncollectible receivables, as well as your pension and other post-employment benefit liabilities. We did perform procedures over the factors that go into estimating those balances, and we consider those to be reasonable. The last item that I have on here are other required communications. We did not have any difficulties with management as we performed the audit. We did not have any material misstatements or any disagreements with management. And then as far as prior to us issuing the financial statements, we did get a representation from management, and we are not aware of any consultations with other accountants. So that is the presentation that I have on fiscal year 21. If you have any questions at this point, I'll take them.
So in summary, we get a pretty clean report.
In summary,
report,
it was
right?
a clean report, yes, sir.
Not pretty clean, clean, right?
Very clean.
Yeah. There's a difference.
Very good job.
Thank you very much. GP, you got anything you want to add to this? No? Any questions for the council? From the council, sorry. Thank you very much. We appreciate it, and look forward to next year. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is a downtown master plan. Latora? How are you tonight?
Pretty good. Thank you, Mayor. So in the fall of last year, Council, you appointed a downtown visioning committee, Vision 22, and they met in the fall and determined that the city needs a downtown plan, which is important because it echoes what the comprehensive plan says as well. And so city staff put together an RFQ in December and sent it out, and we received 7 responses. And so from those responses, we actually went through and provided and created a matrix of experience. And I'll just quickly talk about this, and I'll echo it in the regular session. But basically, we looked at the professional experience of the different firms, looking at their experience doing downtown plans, mobility plans, working with infrastructure, design, specific experience, and economic development. And then we also looked within their responses to the RFQ, the type of work they were scoping to do for the downtown plan. And that include maybe an analysis of existing conditions, community engagement, looking at our land use, existing land use, and possibilities, urban design and placemaking, mobility and parking, housing, infrastructure, kind of a broad design framework for downtown, economic development, and safety. And so from that, staff actually did a matrix and prioritized, and we had 4 consultants that were kind of recommended to the committee. The committee did their own review, and they actually narrowed it down to 3 consultants for interviews, and they were all interviewed. From that resulted in the selection of a consultant today, and so, which is Peloton. And for executive session, she's going to talk about the scope and kind of the process as a kickoff, pending if you guys actually approve them for the project. And so I want to allow them to do a presentation so that you all have insight prior to making the decision of selecting the consultant. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Abra Nusser, and I am with Peloton Land Solutions. So tonight, I'd just like to run through a couple of highlights on the scope, and then we'd like to discuss any direction or questions that you might have as we are at this initial stage of the project, and make sure that we are all heading in the same direction as we approach potential kickoff of this project as well. So this is for the Greenville Downtown Master Plan, and going to discuss some project management and coordination specifics, also community engagement, which is our favorite part of the plan, in addition to the design, and then the adoption and timeline discussion. So Peloton Land has 5 offices. It's not the bike company, but we do bike lanes. So it's we are in the Fort Worth Alliance office, and we're a growing firm of approximately 175 planners, engineers, surveyors, designers, multidisciplinary firm. I am a city planner by trade and designer, and we have a same team guarantee. So with me tonight, we've got Madeline Bonney, if you can wave back there. She's another planner, so we do try to provide additional team members throughout the project, just to make sure that we are making sure everything's covered. So first of all, we listen to understand. It's really important to us to approach the project with no preconceived notions. So although we bring our expertise and our experience through other cities and doing other downtown master plans and other types of planning efforts, we really listen to understand throughout the process so that we are not bringing our own predispositions into those discussions, but really just figuring out what the community would like, what the stakeholders would like, what's important to the property owners, addressing any fears that people have, and then we apply that throughout the project, and we never stop listening to understand. We collaborate and partner. So by the end of the process, we have really strong relationships, some stronger than what was already existing as we set out. But everyone is really experiencing buy-in by the end of the process because it's highly transparent, it's highly collaborative, and we keep people posted all along the way and bring them along with us so that by the end, everyone knows how we got there. We facilitate meaningful and productive dialogue to discover ideas. So really just pushing the envelope of understanding the history of downtown, but also bringing in what it could be and what other cities have done specific to Greenville. So every city is going to be different, and there's all sorts of dynamics that play into not only the entire downtown area, but also into every single property, every single family, business owner, and relationship in downtown. And then we create timely and relevant solutions. So making sure that we are providing visuals in a timely manner to illustrate what we've all been discussing. And then we deliver that plan to you that we've forged with those relationships in mind. So our target for downtown would be to really provide an updated vision for what the community and stakeholders would like to see. Really target economic development in the future. What kind of growth would we like to see downtown have, and what type of vitality do we want to see moving forward? The character is also important, so if there are things that have been done historically that maybe people want to bring back, or maybe some areas need some character that people are really passionate about and would love to see come to life. And then preservation and regulatory foundation, just understanding that we can have a vision and we can have all sorts of high quality designs, but in the end, it would associate probably with zoning to really free up the kinds of uses and designs that you're looking for so that the market can bring that to you. How it all fits together, there's your Elvis portrait on that building behind him, but the community feedback is the oxygen that really will give life to that, the comprehensive plan that you are in that final stages of adopting, and then the downtown master plan is really the heart of that body. So then the codes and ordinances are really going to provide that nervous system moving forward to make it all work together. So we will prepare a detailed project schedule upon contract execution that will keep staff and the committee apprised, and then we also have a couple of touch points with you, and you would be provided with that update to the timeline. We do provide monthly progress reports with a monthly coordination conference, really trying to streamline things for staff, especially so that we're not peppering their inbox with hundreds of data requests and emails going back and forth. We really try to utilize a biweekly or a monthly coordination conference call to streamline those requests. And then community engagement, as I said, the project branding strategy will be an internal document used for the planning team, just establishing the colors, the messaging, and the look and feel of the effort so that we're not sending things out scattered to the wind with all different looks and feels. It all matters when it comes to the community following with the progress of the project. That engagement plan will also provide detailed social media outlets, what we're going to be doing for the project website, and the stakeholder interviews. Those stakeholder interviews, I believe I have a slide coming up on that, but the Downtown Design Studio is really the capstone event for this project as we're proposing it. It would have 3 components, which would first be a staff and committee workshop in the morning. It's really rewarding. You think you know everything about downtown until you start walking it with other people who also know downtown. And you start pointing at things and you find little nooks and crannies that really become important in the end. And then that design studio is a come and go for the community and stakeholders, and it's a really fun experience to come in and visit all the stations that we will need to collaborate on as we approach that direction from the committee at their first meeting. And then presentation of findings at the end. So if anybody, they don't have to stick around the whole day, but if someone does, they can see that presentation findings or come back, just kind of initial takeaways, and then we'll post a little recap on the website too if somebody hasn't been able to attend that presentation. So including tonight, 3 city council meetings, and then you've got your public hearing for city council adoption at the end. The Downtown Vision 2022 Steering Committee, as LaTora mentioned, has been appointed, and we did interview with them, so I guess that's kind of a bonus meeting. But we would formally kick off with them and then come to them at the middle of the process as well to discuss some of the feedback that we've received and the analysis we've completed, and really bubble up that vision statement for downtown for your consideration in the middle of the process that will guide the downtown plan document. And then we will go to the Downtown Design Studio. Well, backing up to the stakeholder workshop. So it's not always the case that a steering committee is appointed for a downtown plan, but when there is one, like in this case, they can actually be the attendees of the workshop and double dip that objective. But we can also have a standalone meeting with different participants than the committee members. So that's a choice that we'd like to discuss with the committee actually at their first meeting and see what they would prefer and what they would find beneficial to the project. And we could also take your feedback on that this evening. And then 10 stakeholder interviews. This is not the only 10 people that we would be talking to during the process. So it's just technical meetings, really going into in-depth with key property owners or key stakeholders. And then once we get to that third phase of the project, up to 5 additional stakeholder interviews. If we've identified some sort of issue through the downtown design studio or other components of the process, maybe we need to meet with a specific landowner in more detail, or any of those other factors. So the steering committee is proposed to have 3 workshops, beginning, middle, and end. I have no idea what's happening to that screen over there, but this one's right. That one looks good. So, but there are 3 proposed workshops. I like to say beginning, middle, end. Just give us those initial directions, and then also at the middle to really see some of the draft concepts and weigh in on the vision statement. And then the third workshop is, here's what we've heard, here it is all together, and here's some plan concepts and highlights for you to weigh in on. And then last but not least, the draft plan review. So we've found that works better done via email, honestly, so that people can look at it and mark it up and then provide us comments directly, and staff can assist us with synthesizing those all together for any revisions that need to be made. And then city council role. So including tonight, just provide direction. We are a collaborative group, so we do appreciate any feedback that you have throughout the process. You guys are in the community and you serve a special perspective for the city, so we welcome any feedback that you have anytime, but especially attending the downtown design studio is important to the process, making sure that you get to see it live. And then also sharing it on social media and spreading the word. We can do all the Facebook and Instagram and flyers in the world, but nothing is as effective as word of mouth. So really helping us spread that word of mouth on our social media pages and who you're talking to is very important to the process. So existing conditions, did want to touch on 2 items here. One is the study area map. One of the key objectives of the downtown master plan will be to define where the boundary of downtown is. Sometimes we have an area that's maybe smaller than it could be for the downtown. So in this case, there's been a historic, a very small area defined as downtown, but when we took a look at it, it might be a couple blocks more than that. So presenting our initial assessment of that area to the committee and having them weigh in on the boundary is very important to the process. So that's an actual key outcome of the downtown master plan process, is defining what is downtown, where is it. And then that infrastructure assessment, on this particular contract proposal, we have gone into additional detail on the infrastructure assessment component to make sure that we not only have detailed cost estimates for these projects, the infrastructure projects, but also, putting them into, we typically do short-term, mid-term, long-term, but in this case, we're proposing to go into a little bit more detail and say this first, this second, this third, and make it even more actionable than it typically is to prepare for any potential funding that you guys might be able to secure for some of those catalyst infrastructure projects. The draft plan is going to include a conceptual design framework, which will include sub-areas, we call them, character areas of the different downtown segments. It'll identify the road types, and these 2 components are really important for any future downtown zoning that you might put in place, but also to define the programming and different infrastructure that might be applicable, the public gathering spaces, and those types of things. So tentative timeline,